Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Kogan's podcast. And today we're going back to the AgeWise. And those of you who remember, we already had a couple of AgeWise presentations. We had a wonderful presentation about love in older age. And today we're going to hear about some really extreme things to do to keep yourself healthy very long time. We'll talk about some amazing physical activity, taking lots of vitamins and some good things. And so let me say a little bit of a story here, how I met John, who you guys seeing here. So for many years, our family buying food from sustainable agriculture from something called CSA. So basically we get a box of food every week from different farmers in the area. And John's farm in Florida has been supplying some of the amazing fruits for us for many years. And when I talked to the people who are in charge of operating our CSA, one of their leaders said, oh, you know, I know you're interested in healthy aging and you want to talk to people who age very uniquely and very healthy. And we have just the right guy for you. It's one of our farmers. I said, one of our farmers. I mean, you know, I usually interview people in their 80s and preferably 90s or even 100s. And she said, oh, yeah, he's in his 90s. He's still farming full time. And that's when I got so fascinated with John's story. So John, welcome so much to the program. It's so exciting that you're here. I'm so looking forward to just hear you and hear your story. And let's start with a simple question. How old are you?
90 years.
90 years old, and you're still doing your own farm. How long you've been manning your farm?
I've been here over 25 years in this world. I've been a farming most of my life, whether it's farming or horse ranching or whatever.
And we'll tell our listeners, what's your day look like? What time do you get up?
I get up 9 o'clock in the morning.
And then what do you do right after? Like what breakfast, work right away? What's happening?
Well, first of all, I gotta explain. I don't go to bed till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have so much energy, I can't go to sleep before then.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to explore that more.
All right. Then I start my day with protein drink, and outside, anything from on a chainsaw to picking or trimming trees, or especially weeding. I spend probably 3 or 4 hours a day weeding, probably 4 or 5 days a week.
So you're out there on your farm physically working most days of the week between 10 a.m. and what?
Well, I used to, until this hot summer came. And mind you, it's especially hot. In fact, my new growth on the plants that I've had for years are burning from the radiation of the sun. So people who think that it seems to be hot this year, it really is. So about the last month, I've stayed in the afternoon as much as I could. So I go out there till 1 o'clock, come in for a few hours and go back out at 5.
And go back out. So is it fair to say you're working 5-6 hours a day outside?
Well, in this 105 degree heat, yeah.
So if it would be cooler, you'd be working
in the winter
more.
When it's cool, I put in 9-10 hours a day.
A day. 9 to 10 hours of physical work per day. No, I mean, look, for you that's like normal. But if you talk to normal regular American and you tell them, oh, I exercise 8 hours every day I mean, they're gonna think you're nuts. But
Probably so.
Well, so the point here is those of my listeners who've been following my work for a while know how much of a big fan I am of blue zones. And the blue zones are those areas of exceptional longevity. So it's the areas in the world where people tend to live till 100 while working on the field, just like you, and they would work on the farm there for 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, nonstop, often eating just twice a day in the morning and then at night. And it's a norm. Like, they're not wondering that this is something abnormal. So in essence, you created your own blue zone. So you created your own environment in your area, at your home, at your farm, to get that far, that healthy. So let's go back to some of the things you said first. And some of this are also one of the most amazing things. I mean, if my listener is asking me, why did I pick you? Well, part of the reason why I picked you is the amazing story of the vitamins that you're about to tell us. But before we get there, I want to tell listeners what I do, and I'm quite younger than you are. Actually, I'm almost half your age, just a little more.
Almost.
So, so I have a lot to learn from you, that's for sure. But what I've been doing myself, and listeners know that too, I've been taking a very special complex of vitamins. They're probably about 15 to 20 capsules a day of different things. And they're ranging from primarily minerals and a very high dose of special B vitamins. So that's been my kind of package for a long time. But I also take some other herbs and I take some other things. And, I've been sharing it with certain people. I'm not going to tell people exactly what I take. I think it's irrelevant because I do believe in personal prioritization and personalization of every treatment, but I have personalized that for myself. So when I heard that you're doing something similar, but you've been doing it for 40, 50, 60 years to me or more, to me, that was just so fascinating. So let's go right in. So you've been taking different minerals and vitamins for most of your life, right? Your mom, you told me, started you on this. So tell us how that all evolved.
Well, this is about 60 or 65 years ago.
So you are at that point like 25.
No, 30 about.
30, okay, 30. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was about 30, maybe a little bit, 32, something like that. I had children that were teenagers, early teens, okay? And I lived up in upper New York State. My mother lived in Connecticut. Never saw her very often. But I had 3 of my children and my wife in the hospital with bronchitis and pneumonia. Middle of winter. And every winter, it was always 2 or 3 of them in the hospital. And I called my mother for sympathy, I guess. And she said, John, I told you if you took vitamins and minerals, you wouldn't have that problem with your family. I said, Ma, I can hardly afford food for them, never mind vitamins and minerals. She said to me, well, if I sent you some, would you take them? And I said, yeah, Ma, kind of humored her, And the conversation went on and we hung up and the kids come home from the hospital eventually. And all of a sudden in the mail, we got a box about 2 foot square. What's this? From Grandma. I opened up the box. In the box is jars full of vitamins. Take 2 of these, take 1 of these, take 1 in the morning. I said, oh my God, what have I done?
So let me clarify this. So this is, so let's say if it's 60 years ago, this is basically 1960, right? Roughly?
I reckon that
maybe 65.
Really mean that much.
No, but the point is, I mean, this is like 30 years before, like this is 20 years before Andrew Weil. This is like 30 years before functional medicine. I mean, we're talking about decades before anybody talked about taking vitamins in a large amounts in any healthcare settings. I mean, nobody knew about this.
But my mother was in it long before me.
So how come? Like, why did she, like, what happened to her?
She was anemic.
And
she had liver problems and she never drank alcohol. And she was a fan of one of the major vitamin companies at that time. I think it was Swanson's.
So it was Swanson, I think is
That's
the
what
that's
she,
that's
that's what she was.
one of the early ones.
What she was, yeah, one of the.
Yeah,
early-
that was an old company. It's a direct to
Yep.
consumer retail brand.
Yep. And she died in her 60s
So early.
of
Of
liver
what?
cancer.
Of liver cancer.
In fact, my dad died at 80.
Mhm.
My 3 children, well, no, my 3, excuse me, my 3 brothers and sisters. My sister just died last week of cancer, but she'd been sick for 20 years and had replacements and knees and hips and you just name it. You know, she's had a miserable 20 years. Oh, my younger brothers, and they're anywhere from 12 years younger than me to 25 years younger than me.
Mhm.
All dead, long time ago.
What happened to them?
All cancer,
All cancer. Huh.
all cancer. So there's your longevity genes. I mean,
Not favoring
my
you.
daughter died
clearly.
at 40 of cancer.
Wow.
So
But here you are. So you've started taking the vitamins in that time when that box came to your door and you never stopped.
yeah, I did,
You did. Okay.
because let me put it this way. I did the best I could once I ran out of her box of vitamins
Uh-huh.
with the children, and I did what I could, but it wasn't as much as what she started us off with, you know. It was an affordability thing.
Uh-huh.
And but from that day on, I never had a sickness or a hospitalization, my wife or the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. And kids left when they were 18 and et cetera and so like. So basically,
So until they were 18 under your wing, everybody was not going to a doctor taking all these vitamins.
not at all. That's an amazing. So because of that, I continued doing what I did, but I've been doing so many things, and it's all busy from anything from motorcycles to horse ranching and sailing yachts, and you just name it. That it seems like the vitamins kind of got put back on the shelf for a decade or so.
Uh-huh.
And I started having problems.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Andrew Weil.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember reading him back then. And I started to get serious with him maybe 40 some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that as you get older, you need more, because the body absolutely needs them to function properly. Not enough, it'll function, but not the way I want it to function, or not the way I needed it to function. So I basically gradually raised my intake of vitamins and minerals through the decades.
Mm-hmm.
And as they became more affordable, that I could do it too. And I right now probably take over 100, at least 100 vitamin pills a day.
And so let's do this. So tell us approximately what you're taking. Like, what are those vitamins? Like, you don't need to tell listeners and me like specifics, but I want to have a basic sense of what you're taking and why. Like, how did you pick up this particular regimen?
Well, I can answer that one easy. I get letters from the greatest doctors in the world. I pay for their letters monthly. And I not only read them, but I benefit from them. And they basically explain why the body needed them.
Mhm.
And so naturally, I took them. Like I say, I have a rack of over 100 bottles of them, but I take all my vitamins separately
Mhm.
because I take 100 or 1,000 times more than most people would take.
Mhm. And you taking that, not everything at like together, right? So you're picking and choosing on a particular day. Do you have any system, like if you feel slightly run down, you'll take that, or how do you choosing what to take on a given day?
That's a good question. I douse every one.
Uh-huh. So you're kind of rotating them a little bit.
No, I
No.
douse them.
Ah, you test them. So you
Brain,
figure out on a given day what best for you.
the brain knows what's best for you.
So
The
for
brain knows
listeners,
what the body needs.
exactly. So for listeners, this is a system that's called kinesiology. So it's the way to test particular food, mineral, vitamin, whether your body in a given moment asking for it. And how are you doing this? Are you doing it with like an O-ring, or you have what's your system of dowsing, of the testing it?
I use my arm.
Use your arm. So you put it out and you put the pill, and if it feels strong, then you take it.
I know. I took a seminar from a very old man that taught me. I used to use a chain and pendulum.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, when you go in the health food store with my wife, and there's 6 different vitamin Bs on the shelf, and I'm holding
Correct.
it in the
Right.
pendulum over, she walks away. She don't know me.
Right.
Well, I went to him and he said, taught how to douse with your arm, which is take that arm and drop it down on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Drop it straight down.
Mm-hmm.
Disassociate it from your thoughts and then ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I drop my right arm down, the only motion that I give to that arm is back and forth, straight forward and straight back. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just disconnect it from my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hold my left hand over the top of a bottle of vitamin, and I will ask, should I add to this day this vitamin? It's not a question of taking it. Yeah, someday you're going to need it. But you see, I'm taking multiple vitamins. And if the arm swings clockwise to the right, that's a yes. If it's no, it's to the left. So all I'm asking for is a yes or no. And every bottle. So I have 100 bottles. It only takes me 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And I will take half of them one day, maybe 3/4 of them another day. Other days very light. That way my body doesn't get too much of one thing. Everything it needs. So that is how I do it. And I've been doing that for 20-25 years, I guess. So I'm not really wasting the vitamins. And the benefits are
Pretty obvious.
amazing.
So what does your wife think of all this? Is she doing that too, or is it just you?
She does it on a smaller scale. My wife's a lot younger than me. And she doesn't need as much. And she's very perceptive as to what she can really handle and what she really needs. So she takes maybe 20-25% of what I take.
But that's still probably 10 times more than what most people take.
Yes, because they're not multivitamins.
Right. So you guys doing a separate ingredients and
Everything's separate.
you're picking them based on how your body in the moment feels.
The need of the body at that time.
So it varies according to the season, to what you eat, to all kinds of reasons.
Yep. Yep. And we eat everything done from scratch. There's no preservatives. There's no fast foods that we don't eat out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the biggest part of our food right here in the yard.
Right.
And
so what are you growing?
well, sweet potatoes. So we eat the sweet potatoes and we eat the sweet potato leaves for greens. That's my favorite green. The leaves of the sweet potato.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she has herbals and ginger and turmeric. And I mean, it's just so much that's her department. So I'm not even really in it. I got enough of my own with the fruit trees.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a provocative question. So, there are a lot of people there are a lot of critics of vitamins saying, why do we need vitamins if we can get everything from food? What do you say to those people?
Well, can I give you an example?
Of course.
My brother, who's 13 years younger than me, have had for 30 years, have had this conversation back and forth. My brother believes that you can get all the vitamins you need and minerals from good organic food. Now, he was really adamant, everything. He did drink wine, and he wouldn't drink anything but wine, organic wine that came from France.
Mm-hmm.
He had a nursery or a vegetable grower that grew his vegetables for him about 5 miles away. And he would grow any vegetable that my brother wanted. And he would, every week, he'd go and load up on the vegetables. He brought them home, all organic vegetables. And he says, you're wasting your time and money on all those vitamins. You eat good food. And he was a master chef, and he did his own cooking. And I said, well, I don't think it's possible to get what the body needs other than to survive from foods, and no matter what they are. I said, you can't eat enough of them, and there's not enough in the foods to satisfy the body's needs.
Okay, so you're bringing up a critical point that I want to turn a little more scientific. So in the last 100 years, there has been a pretty consistent of depletion of the soil. And there has been a good data to say that the foods that we're eating today, organic or not, doesn't make difference, are basically significantly less nutritious compared to what people used to eat hundreds of years ago.
100% right.
And, so with that philosophy, I am definitely in partial favor of what you're doing for everybody. I'm not even talking about specific. I'm not even talking about people who are depleted for whatever reason. They could have had chronic illness. But very good. So continue your story. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
So the end of the conversation would be, well, let's see who's the last man standing. He died years ago.
And he had cancer, you said, right?
And to him, he wouldn't go to a doctor until it was too late because he couldn't believe he could have cancer. Totally, with cancer of the pancreas. He totally denied it until it was too late. And he was 13 years younger than me, and he died 3 years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, something like that.
So he still died in his late 70s, right?
In his 70s, yeah.
That's not, it's actually still not.
Yep. So I mean, that pretty much covers on the food, what I think of the food.
Do you, in the last couple of years, do you think you're taking less, or you think you're taking actually more vitamins?
I'm adding.
You're adding things, so you're
Because
actually
I'm
getting more
learning.
complex.
I'm learning the body needs more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning it from the doctor's letters that I get, and I'm learning, and I'm learning the needs.
Mm-hmm.
I douse for the needs,
Mm-hmm.
and if I don't need it, I don't buy it. I don't.
So do you sometimes, when you do the kinesiology, do you sometimes ask a very specific question, like you look at all your vitamins and say like, today I'm gonna need this because I feel like run down or whatnot?
I ask. I ask every day. First of all, I have a rack of vitamins in my bathroom.
Uh-huh.
It's only about 6 bottles there. And I will ask, should I take any of these today?
Uh-huh.
And I'll get an answer. If I get a yes, I'll douse which ones.
Uh-huh.
If I get a no, I don't take them. When I come out to do my protein drink, I have a cabinet full of them. And I'll ask the same question and what to take with my protein and collagen drink.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, that's the way I start my morning off.
And you take something in the afternoon too, or just in the morning?
I take most of them in the afternoon with my, well, let me see, my protein drink is 11 or 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
My breakfast is 3 o'clock.
3 p.m.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I take the most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And in the evening, I'll eat at 9 o'clock.
So you basically eat nothing between 9 p.m. and
3
and 11 a.m. the following day.
From 3 to 9. I do the intermediate fasting.
Right.
And
well, you have your shake in the morning, right?
Yep, I do. I have to have that because otherwise the work that I do, I don't have enough energy for it.
Got it. Okay.
And I take some vitamins that are for energy, like rhodiola.
So it's not all vitamins. So you're taking herbs too.
Adaptogens,
Adaptogens, right.
It's energy.
Right. So I've actually had multiple articles and written in some chapters and books about adaptogens. They're very important for our health. I'm a huge
very, very, very important.
Agree.
Yes.
Agree.
And I can feel that.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, let me basically do one more question and then we have to wrap up because I've tried to keep this short, but I have an idea. I'm definitely going to bring you back in a few years. I want to have those every couple of years so that people can see how you're doing.
Can I put a little something in on that little thought?
Oh yeah, of course.
My granddaughter wanted to throw me a 90th birthday party.
Uh-huh.
And I says, no. I said, no, don't bother. I says, you can for 100.
That's it. Well, I definitely gonna fly over to Florida. I gotta guarantee you. You invite me. I mean, I can't.
Okay, proceed.
But all right. So let me ask the final question. It's not your question, not for you. So listeners who are gonna listen to this, I mean, they're gonna think you're crazy. Some of them gonna love you to death. But let's assume that the listener of this program is just basically learning. They want to live long. They want to stay healthy as you are. Give them 3 things that I think for you were the most important things that got you this far, this healthy.
3 things would never even be a drop in the bucket too. 3 things are not enough.
Okay, how about 10 things?
Well, vitamin D3 is very important.
Vitamin D3,
NAC,
NAC,
ALA,
ALA, alpha lipoic acid.
and that's besides the B vitamins and the B12 and
Vitamin.
all separately.
Uh-huh.
I take a multi B and then I take the 12s and the 6s and the 5s separately as needed, as the body calls for. So and you know, when it's over, I can think of 100 things that I wish I did say, but
no, and you know, the point here is not
besides A and you know, and E, and I mean, this is besides what everybody else takes.
Right.
And rhodiola for energy, that's the Russian God pill. So basically, I take powders in my shake.
Okay, so that protein you think is very important for you, that extra protein in the morning.
Is for me, and collagen.
And collagen.
You see, about I don't go to medical doctors. I went 20 years ago and they told me I needed a new hip because I could hardly walk. I walked out and said, oh, well, I had to build one. So I gotten into, well, what's going to build up the joints? And I went into the collagen and a few other things on the vitamins. And
so you've been taking collagen supplements for 20 years.
Pretty cool. Right after that hip incident, yeah, he showed all the deterioration in my hip.
So just for listeners, the craze about collagen, that now everybody takes collagen, right? I mean, collagen is everywhere, but bone broth and collagen in every store. But that started only about 5-6 years ago. So you were doing this decade and a half before it became
at least a decade. Yep, a decade and a half probably.
Yeah.
Yep. And I had to increase the vitamin D3 so that the bones would.
And that's despite the fact that you live in a very sunny area. Just pointing it out for the listeners, because our skin makes vitamin D, but you're taking even more. The important point there is that unfortunately with age, our skin makes less vitamin D. And so we do have to take some extra. I think that's a very good.
And I spend in the sun, I spend most of my time out there in the sun. And I have no skin problems. But on a skin, my wife just this week was sorting out old pictures that we had, you know. And she said to me, she says, John, I can't believe this. I wonder what? She says, these pictures were 20, 25 years ago, and you don't look a bit different now than you did then.
I bet she's right.
You don't age.
This is your hair. You still have your hair. You still have your teeth.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but some
of them.
I love it. I love it. So I think you're such an example, and you know, and I don't really care if some of the listeners are going to completely disagree with some of your approach. I think one of the biggest lessons I'm getting is that the body needs things at the different times at different amounts, and we have to figure out how to get those needs met. We have to figure out whether we're going to take certain things as a food or vitamins. That's an individual decision. And we also have to really not necessarily rely on our healthcare system, because nobody in the healthcare system, well, not nobody, but most healthcare system will not lead you to this way at all. In fact, they will tell you don't take anything because it's all nonsense.
Can I tell you how I solved that problem?
Sure.
All right. You see, still on?
We froze there for a second.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Just repeat that.
As I'm dowsing, I will ask how many. And 1, 2, 3. Sometimes I only take 1 or 2 of a certain pill. Sometimes I take 3. And so the amount is also important, as well as the time of the day. I even ask, should I take this for at my breakfast, which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or should I take it with my evening meal? It's the timing also. And the brain knows what it wants. All they're doing is asking your brain what to do.
Bottom line, we often know a lot more answers to our own problems than we think, especially when those problems are not really problems, but they're just sensations of specific needs. They're not necessarily yet medical conditions. They're just our personal feelings of what our body requires. So you're basically eating and taking vitamins based on how you feel and based on what your intuition perceive you need, which is in a way is probably most natural way of living, and probably also the oldest way of living in essence, because pre-healthcare system, people had to rely on what was available and also on their own intuition, because there was no other real way of doing it. So fascinating. I'm gonna let you go. I will say thanks so much from me and from all the listeners, and I will absolutely gonna have to connect with you in a couple of years, and we're gonna have to do it again.
I'll look forward to it.
Very good. And thanks so much for your friend who helped out to set this up. Stay very healthy, and I will keep using your food. We could keep buying the food from your farm. And thanks for that too.
Good to hear. Till we meet again.
Till we meet again. Bye.